Welcome to the Acadec Coach's Playbook from the Texas Academic Decathlon. I'm Jared Stewart, and I'm here with Jillian Schattle, who is the coach at Lebanon Trail High School in Frisco. She's been a coach there for the past 2 years. Welcome, Jillian.
Hello, thank you for having me.
We're talking today about the early part of the year again, just like our last episode, which involves some of the most important decisions you make as coach, other than recruiting, which we'll be talking about later on this year. So, Jillian, what do you think is the most important thing you do at the beginning of the
For me, the most important thing that I do at the beginning of the school year is emphasizing team building and emphasizing a bond between the kids. Something that I did last year as well as this year is we did a social before school started that I worked with my assistant coach who is an art teacher. So that works out because I'm not super creative. So she's much better at all the coming up with fun, creative things for the kids to do. So, for example, last year when the theme was water, what we did is we got together and we just watercolored. I mean, literally, we had the kids, they watercolored a little name sign. We brought snacks, we brought food. And it was a way that really before class started, they were able to really get together and bond and meet each other. And especially last year, it was hard because so many, or really my entire team was virtual, right? So, like, they only knew each other as squares on a computer. And so they never actually interacted in person together at all outside of the two times we came on campus to compete. And so, by way of doing a team building and kind of a bonding that also, in a way connects, of course, to the Acadec content, I think the kids are just able to kind of meet each other in a more relaxed setting, that it doesn't feel high stakes, it doesn't feel high pressure, that they're able to kind of interact and hang out. This year, I'm even putting it on the kids. I have some fantastic seniors this year that have taken on, they want to do socials within our school day. Now, on our campus, we have an hour block lunch in the center of the day. And so I kind of have time within my school day to do that. But the kids are working on putting together different little social activities, nothing that requires time outside of school. They want to do little thematic things, something around Halloween, whatever. But I really think at the beginning of the year, it's really emphasizing having the kids get to know each other on a personal level. I think, especially when you're bringing in those eighth graders that are freshmen, high school itself is intimidating. Acadec itself is completely different from pentathlon, right? And so having the kids interact with the seniors and juniors that are on the team and the veterans who have done it before can really help them kind of bring them into the fold. I also spend the first day of school, which actually was today for me as we're recording this. I spent time doing icebreakers. We did kind of like speed interview practice where the kids got to interview each other. I had my seniors, we broke into small groups. My seniors helped to lead the students that are new to Acadec, creating their own Acadec contract, if you will, of like, I split it into what are behaviors that we're looking for Acadec, what are expectations, how we're going to act with each other in class, both in Acadec and outside of Acadec, as well as academic dedication. What do we want our scores to be? What is that going to look like? What is that going to look like in terms of studying both in school and outside of school? And so just really getting their buy-in, I think, as well is really important. They sit through how many other classes during the day where a teacher is telling them all day, every day, what to do, and they don't really have a lot of buy-in. So getting that ownership from the kids has been really helpful, and I think is really important in starting the school year.
year? Okay. Yeah, I think trying to get kids to understand why this is fun, why Acadec is fun. Part of that is that bonding aspect of it. For me as a coach, every year that was the memories that they were built. And some of my former decathletes still talk about it, or those bonding sessions and digging into studying and really becoming friends around something around an academic competition is really important. And you kind of hit on this in your last answer. So you, at the beginning of the year, we always have, return active kids, and we're always hopefully bringing in new people. How do you bridge that gap between the new people who really probably have no experience with Acadec, who may not be the strongest in some of the things like economics or math, versus the new people or excuse me, the people who were with you last year, who know all the routines, who maybe have a better understanding of the economics right away, maybe saw the math 3 years ago. How do you bridge that gap?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a tough thing to do as well. Certainly I'm getting to know the kids too. So those new kids, I don't even know where their strong suits are. One thing I do right off the bat on the first day of school, like what we did today, I do a Google survey. I kind of pull both my veterans, which I know their strong suits, like you said, kids that are stronger at econ or math or literature or whatever. And then my newbies as well, of like, hey, like you've had a chance to look at the guides over the summer. What subjects are you interested in? Like, what subjects do you feel like you would be strongest in? And then something that I'm planning on doing this year is a way to really help to kind of bridge that gap. First of all, I make sure that my seating chart, I do have a seating chart for Acadec as part of my classroom management. I mix it up. So I do not just let my seniors, veterans sit at a table all by themselves. And then here I have a table of freshmen and newbies who have no idea what's going on. Because the reality is it's not just that you have kids that are veterans that are upperclassmen. Upperclassmen in general just have more of the background knowledge, right? So for example, this year's ACTEC with the science is chemistry. And so certainly these seniors and juniors will have an upper hand regardless because they've obviously already taken chemistry as a sophomore. And so what I do is I make sure that those kids are spread out throughout the room. They work in clusters. Kids that were on the team, kids that were in the class may not have made the team, so they still know the routine, but they didn't go to San Antonio, they didn't get that experience. And then obviously brand new, whether they're freshmen. I even have a brand new senior this year as a way to kind of build them into the fold. Something else I do is I put ownership on the kids in terms of learning and helping them teach each other. So something, and that is my plan this weekend actually, is based off of their Google survey results. I'm going to have kids pair up and what are their stronger subjects. Now, part of that is my own background knowledge. I know the kids that I had last year who are going to be my econ whizzes, who are going to be my math whizzes, who are going to be my art whizzes, because I kind of have some for every subject. I'm going to have them do kind of smaller breakout study sessions that we'll do, after we quiz in class, as a way to kind of really help tutor the kids that may be weak in those subjects. For example, I'm thinking of one senior I have in particular who is our strongest in math by a landslide. And so I'm having him, along with one of his buddies, is going to help lead math tutorials alongside my assistant coach. I have another senior who's really strong in art. She'll lead kind of the art small group, is what she'll be doing as a way to kind of help tutor the kids. Obviously, research shows that teaching yourself is another way to remember the information. So it's kind of a win win, by having that senior that's strong in art, for example, teach her peers. Her peers are getting something out of that, but then she is also getting something out of that as well. And so I think that's really strong. The kids enjoyed doing that in the spring. I kind of implemented that last spring, and they had a kick out of that as well. I also think something else that's new is bridging the gap. I think the new people struggle with the terminology of Acadec. They struggle with the scoring because obviously it's completely different from the 0 to 100 that they're used to in any of their other grades or classes. And so something that we're emphasizing this year that the kids made sure to point out today when we were discussing it, is checking in on each other with scoring. The practice quizzes we do in class, not shaming somebody if they have a bad day, but really helping, if you notice somebody is scoring really low, like, hey, what's going on, and checking in, especially the freshmen who probably aren't going to be pulling 900s or 1000s, right? The first month or so of school, because it's brand new to them. And so really having the seniors, or just your veterans in general, check in with them to make sure that they are getting any of the help that they need in terms of studying and preparing for ACTEC as well. And then obviously I met with my veterans the week before school started and kind of discussed expectations for the year. And I'm leaning on them to really be the leaders and the models in class of like, hey, our phones are up. We are not working on work for other classes. We are focusing on studying econ or studying lit or studying SOSI or whatever we're doing. So I also lean on them to kind of be the leaders in class, and that helps to bridge the gap as well. Because I just think kids in general tend to get more buy-in when it's their peers that are leading them more so than just a teacher standing at the front of the room. That's so much more powerful than just me standing at the front of the room leading them through all of the studying. So I tend to see a bit more success with that. So those are some of the techniques I use, and kind of bridging that gap between the two groups themselves.
Yeah, that's, I mean, strongest team I ever had, they really kind of completely took ownership of the whole
Good.
process and the team and everything. And they were running the plans. They, with my guidance, but they were the ones saying, okay, we need to do this. And so if you can build that, that's what kind of makes a strong program. Now, as a brand new coach, that's sometimes very hard to do right off the bat, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so it takes a year or two before you kind of figure that out. You need veterans who are able to do that. And often when you're a new coach, you usually have a very few veterans. I think
Yes.
when I turned it over to you, I don't think I left you with
There
hardly
was one. Yeah, there was
any.
literally one. And again, we were virtual. And so, like
Yeah,
all the kids are on Zoom the whole time. And so that was really hard. But
yeah.
last year was the first year that I had veterans. And you're right. Like, once those kids get, I think, kind of the taste of going to competition, like even just going to like a scrimmage, honestly, like just being in a room with other kids from other schools, it's like, oh, wow, this is real. And I think those veterans get that taste and then they really become the leaders in the room. But yes, it does take, a year or so kind of rebuilding there.
All right. Well, thank you, Jillian, for joining us today on the Acadec Coaches Playbook. And thanks to all our listeners for joining us. Remember to follow all our social media accounts to stay up to date all year on the exciting world of Texas Academic Decathlon. If you have topics or questions you'd like answered, reach out to us through our accounts or email us. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Jillian.
Thank you.